Jimmy, baby, come on over. Oh, you mean in family mode?
Hello. This is his mic, okay? This okay?
Is this your logo?
This is Jack. Jack.
Smaller?
No, cleaner looking.
Olive soap was made with
And we're going to consider cancelling Debonair.
palm olive. With palm and olive oils, helps your skin retain its natural moisture, leaving it soft and smooth.
2 cameras this afternoon.
Palm olive, because the essence of your beauty is soft
Well, I mean, we've got one of our own, haven't we?
skin.
What I loved most about going to the general store was sitting around the fire, telling stories, playing games, and nibbling on Kraft cheddar. What delicious cheddar it was. And if you're like me and wish things today tasted every bit as good, we are lucky because we got Cracker Barrel cheddar.
There's 77 years of tradition behind our fine cheddar. Cracker Barrel from Kraft.
Webster is next on BCTV.
Good morning. I'm going to start with a political prediction this morning on a provincial matter. After my interview with Tommy Holmes, the head man of ICBC yesterday, I sat here in stunned shock and amazement. Tommy Holmes, who is a creature, of course, of his political directions in statute, is running ICBC as a non-subsidized, allegedly a non-profit organization to force automobile insurance on everyone in the province. Of course, automobile insurance must be public. Of course, people like myself remember the abysmal record of the private insurance companies. But when Holmes is put in the position of increasing not only all premiums by 38% minimum, plus all the other optional increases, and cutting out the 25% safe driving discount for those over 65, it's totally politically insensitive, unsympathetic, and wrong. We're told there's going to be $500 million in claims paid out. We're told that ICBC on its new revenues from the people of BC will only make $4 million a year. We're told that we have a fair system which has wiped out discrimination as to age, sex, and marital status. All well and good. We're told that youngsters are being treated much more fairly than they were before. All well and good. We're told that we can't afford to put in the 25% discount for senior citizens. Of course we can. Bennett has a current budgetary surplus of some $76 million. There is no need for any complicated bureaucratic measures. All you have to do is to set a level of income for those over 65 and get them to sign a declaration on their application for insurance and give them the 25% discount. You know, this government is so insensitive. Bennett's performance after the Lalonde energy policy and the total performance of social credit shows an absolute insensitivity to ordinary needs. And for Hewitt, the minister in charge of ICBC, to suggest even in a veiled manner that those who couldn't pay it might get it from Canada Assistance Plan is absolute hogwash. The people who do deserve some consideration under our now totally non-subsidized ICBC situation are those over 65. And I'll bet you when Bennett gets back from his little holiday and the rumbles move up to him and he realizes what a boo-boo he has done, he'll change somebody's mind. You know what's going to happen if old Barrack gets back in the next election, which is now commonly predicted. He will immediately put or implement a tax on gasoline at the pumps so that for the benefit of a subsidy for ICBC, so that those who drive most pay most. And it's a pity that that wasn't done in the first place. Anyway, I'm telling you, Bennett will back down on this and will, if he's got any common sense at all, reinstitute the 25% discount for drivers over 65 in the province of British Columbia. Enough is enough. Man here with a black armband. What's the black armband for?
Well, the black armband is traditionally a sign of mourning.
And who are you in mourning for?
Well, the Department of National Defense recently released a poll that most...
Keep it short. Who are you in mourning for?
The planet Earth.
The planet Earth.
We're
That's the
probably
answer
going
I
to have a
wanted.
nuclear war this decade.
Nothing but cheery news with Webster. This is Jim Stark of an organization worldwide called Operation Dismantle. Also on the program this morning, we're going to have Carol Sapin Gold, one of the new breed of persons who will tell you, if you're one of those kind of persons, how to be a success. And an old friend of mine, Peggy Holmes, a young broadcaster from Edmonton, after the break. The man with the black armband is James Stark, who's the founder and director of Operation Dismantle, which seems to be a fairly obvious cause. But how much do we spend on arms races in the world today?
$500 billion a year.
Will those materials and weapons not, in the final analysis, have to be used?
Every arms race in the past has led to war. There's no reason to believe that human nature has changed. This arms race will probably lead to nuclear war and the destruction of life on this planet.
Well, what makes you spearhead an organization against this impossible task, and what kind of progress have you made?
Well, I was perhaps one of the first to realize that we simply cannot trust governments to negotiate what Pierre Trudeau called human survival on this planet. They will not negotiate disarmament unless they are literally bullied into it by the people. So we're trying to launch a worldwide referendum on disarmament. Let people vote for an end to this threat of nuclear war. Progress, we've got 70 municipalities who've supported it, including Vancouver, I'm pleased to say. Dozens of organizations, the CLC, Canadian Council of Churches, World Federalists, and we've got 105 MPs in support of it right now, over 30 from each party.
That's in Canada, which is a very tiny tail of a very large dog when it comes to nuclear weapons, is it not?
It is.
What about the world? I suppose the Soviet Union gives your cause total lip service.
As a matter of fact, we spent 3 months at the UN last year lobbying for this idea, and the Soviet Union had a favorable response, but so did almost everybody else. There's no question that a worldwide referendum would pass if it was proposed in the UN General Assembly.
Was it not proposed way back in the 60s? Was
No.
it not something but way back in 1961 about this kind of referendum?
No, not a referendum. What they did then was they sat down, the United States and the Soviet Union, and said, what's the alternative to a permanent arms race? And they negotiated a detailed concept that they both agreed upon and that every other member nation in the UN agreed was the realistic, achievable alternative. But of course they've gone in exactly the opposite direction ever since.
Are you talking about the start of a so-called disarmament which led to SALT I?
That is a beginning. SALT is a process to limit the arms race. The next step is to stop it. The next step is to reverse it.
Well, in those days, though, it was much simpler. There was the Soviet Union, and there was the United States, and there was Britain, which had weapons, and that was about all there was in the way of a nuclear club. Look at the nuclear club now.
Yeah, there's 8 members and another 15 that are capable, or soon will be capable, of making nuclear weapons. And a lot of the blame for that has to rest with the superpowers, because look at the example they set. They built enough weapons to destroy the world 20 to 60 times over, and now they're building more. In fact, the Americans just elected a president who got elected on the promise of expanding the arms race.
Name the 8 nations.
China, France, Britain, Soviet Union, can't recall the others.
No, that's why I asked you. Let's try that again. France, China, Britain, the Soviet Union, probably Israel.
United States, probably Israel.
Probably India.
India is a member of the club.
Probably is it Argentina, Brazil, to whom we gave sold the can-do nuclear thing.
One of the great blotches on Canadian history.
Korea is another one, is it not?
No, not at the present time, but probably soon.
Probably soon.
South
so
Africa
therefore,
is
despite the strive for human survival led by our magnificently erudite and sane Prime Minister, he hasn't done much, has he?
No, as a matter of fact, I have grave doubts that Canada has any really sincere and worth, really gutsy interest in this issue. I'm shocked at the lack of leadership shown by the Canadian government.
Well, are we not now being conditioned, and I probably have been conditioned myself into believing that yes, nuclear weapons will be used, but yes, they will be used on a limited basis in small wars in the Middle East and perhaps in Western Europe, and that the big boys have enough sense not to use their submarine missiles or their underwater missiles against each other's major centers.
I think anybody who really believes that nuclear war could be limited shouldn't be let out of his house without a nanny. Basically, if nuclear war starts, they're going to end up using all the weapons that they've got at their disposal. The concept of deterrence, of having so many weapons that they're scared stiff to use them, has lasted for about 20 years, but it's breaking down. There are many influential Americans who now believe that USA can fight and win a nuclear war, including one Mr. George Bush. And it's an incredibly stupid view to hold.
Well, he could become, how old is Reagan? 69.
Something like that.
Bush could become the president.
That's quite
possible. He's the former head of the CIA.
I debated one of Reagan's senior military advisors, General Richard Stilwell, on Pierre Burton's show, The Great Debate. And he lost. And after, he came over to me and he said, there will never be peace in this world until communism is destroyed. There are people in the higher echelons of the Soviet Union and the United States who are in favor of World War III, and it's time people realize that.
What can Canadians do? Hold your breath till after the break. Let me get the situation quite clear with Jimmy Stark of this Operation Dismantle. Who puts up the money for it?
Not enough people. We're about $60,000 in debt right now, and my staff are only paid room and board.
Is this an offspring of the old CCND, Canadian Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament?
No, Operation Dismantle is a program of the World Federalists of Canada. They were the first organization to see the merits in this idea of the world vote.
Well, now, why can this not be raised at the United Nations, in the usual way? I'm sure everybody would give lip service to it, would they not, to have a global referendum of all member nations on what? What would the referendum say? Are you in favor of nuclear war? No!
No, it wouldn't be as simple as that. They would be voting for or against the agreement that they reached in 1961 called General and Complete Disarmament. This was negotiated by the superpowers, ratified unanimously. And it's a detailed agreement whereby there would be gradual reductions in armaments and a system called collective security for nations.
All right, how would it be done? Have you asked our Foreign Affairs Minister, what is his name? He's in town today. Mark McGuigan. They say he got that job because Trudeau wanted to pull the strings all the way and not have a strong foreign minister, don't they?
It has been said. I wouldn't comment on that.
You wouldn't go that far?
I don't have an opinion on
All right. Have you approached... Why wouldn't you have an opinion on that? Oh, let me ask you the question first. Have you approached McGuigan to raise this matter in the United Nations?
Yes, I have. He said no.
Just no?
He said no for a number of reasons that I find extremely unpersuasive. The first reason was he wouldn't propose a referendum on disarmament because he didn't want a referendum on capital punishment.
Just a minute. You're talking about a global referendum on disarmament.
That's right. But he calls this electoral logic, where if you open the door to one referendum, everybody and his daughter will want another
But we're
one.
going to have a referendum perhaps after a 2 years
That's right.
blockage on the Constitution.
Of course. Well, this was only one of several reasons he gave. Other reasons are that the Soviets would get 101% yes votes and try and look more moral than us. Another reason, which is a real consideration, is that some nations wouldn't participate. Now, our hopes are pinned on momentum. We know there's 25 to 35 nations that would participate, run their national vote as part of the world vote. And we think this is far more than enough momentum to draw in the reluctant states.
McGuigan, of course, is right on that point. In the Soviet Union, which is not a free country, would get 101% yes vote.
Well, they'd get a high yes vote, but we have to remember that their country was invaded twice this century in 2 world wars. They would get a high vote as well because the government, for the reasons that McGuigan gave. But I think the fact that we can get the Soviet Union to vote very highly in favor of world disarmament should be looked on as a positive thing. God help us, I think we should get just as positive a vote here if people are made to really consider the issue.
What do you want Canadians to do?
I want Canadians to write the Prime Minister and tell him that they care about this issue and they want Canada to take the lead in this and make this proposal for a world vote in the United Nations.
He's got a dancing engagement in Saudi Arabia at the moment.
He'll be back.
He will be back. You know, the only time that I felt absolutely terrified of the potential use of the nuclear weapon was the night of the Cuban Missile crisis.
Yes, me too. But it's coming again. I mean, they have considered seriously using nuclear weapons on 8 known occasions since that time.
8 known occasions?
8 known occasions. There's probably very many more.
In the Middle East?
Middle East.
Vietnam?
Vietnam, certainly.
Korea was before that.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a nightmare and a terror. What about children in the schools? Are they made conscious of it at all, or is that regarded as fulfilling the little darlings with political propaganda?
Personally, I'm very disappointed at the treatment of this issue by the educational system, not only the lower schools, primary and secondary schools, but even universities. Our parents' generation, or my parents' generation, came to terms with the unique problems of their age. They fought the Second World War. They fought the First World War. But our generation, people today are not coming to terms, not facing up to the nuclear age. And the educational system is a big part of the problem.
It's a political problem, of course.
Of course. I mean, we don't like the Russians. The Russians don't like us. There are hatreds and animosities all over this world. But I mean, we cannot have nuclear war unless we're suicidal. I'm not suicidal. Are you, Jack?
No, not this week. If you can't get help from Canada, who else are you going to approach in the way of a world figure to try and get the referendum raised in the United Nations on global referendum?
Well, the government of Costa Rica showed enough interest to have me down to their country to meet with their president. They're not going to do it this year, but they've left the door open for next year. And the New Democratic Party in Canada has supported us unanimously. They belong to the Socialist International. These are NDP-type governments.
How many of your MPs were non-NDP? 117 was it, or 895?
105 support us at the present time, and only 32 of those are NDP.
You missed your chance when Flora MacDonald was the External Affairs Minister, didn't you?
Flora MacDonald wouldn't do it because she said it wasn't Canadian tradition to have referenda. She should tell that to Levesque, Lougheed, and to Prime Minister Trudeau.
And perhaps to Billy Bennett and British
And
Columbia,
perhaps
one
to
never
Billy
knows.
Bennett.
A call here from Ladysmith. Go ahead, please.
Hi. Yeah, I'd like to speak to Mr. Stark.
Well, just go ahead. You don't need to go through the niceties of good morning.
Yes. Well, I'd like to say at the University of Victoria this weekend, there'll be various experts from NORAD and Project Plowshares discussing the arms race. And then I have 2 quick questions. One is on what does Mr. Stark feel about the taxes for peace, redirecting your taxes towards peace? And then I've heard rumors that the energy for the MX missile system will come from British Columbia, and I'd like to know if he knows anything about that.
2 questions. What is this the conference you're going to in Victoria?
As a matter of fact, that's why I'm in the West for that conference at Victoria this Saturday. I encourage people to come out for it. The taxes,
Well, what are the NORAD people doing there?
I think their participation is very encouraging. They should be trying to deal with this issue. In fact, the Department of National Defense is simply not helping matters at all by talking about things like conscription at a time when we should be talking disarmament. As far as the peace tax is concerned, I'm very interested in that. In fact, our organization supports.
What is it?
It's a proposal where citizens, instead of paying the proportion of their taxes that go into the military, could opt or choose to have that amount of their taxes go into a peace tax fund so that organizations like Operation Dismantle wouldn't be always going broke.
To get money for your kind of
To get
organization.
money for disarmament and peace organizations. We support that proposal heartily. I think it's constructive. As far as the energy for the MX missile, I don't know anything about that having to do with British Columbia. I'm sorry.
Export of power from here? Caller? I don't know about it either. Go ahead from Kitimat.
Yes, good morning, Jack, and good morning, Mr. Stark.
Good morning.
The question that the man is raising, would you not think that he's dreaming? And 2, the possibility that he is playing on the fear of that's at large in the world today, that many people are afraid that there is a possibility of a nuclear holocaust?
The dreamers of this world are the people who think that we can wire this world to self-destruct and survive. Those are the dreamers. As far as I'm concerned, they are the idealists. The realists are the people who are pushing for nuclear disarmament so that we can survive. Fear, in fact, is one of the major problems of the arms race. We're afraid of the Russians. They're afraid of us. Everybody's afraid of somebody. I think maybe instinctively in our nature we have this sense that there must be an enemy out there someplace. But am I playing on fear? Yeah, I'm an alarmist. I want people to understand that this is no joke. This is for real. We could have nuclear war this decade, and it's about time that people faced up to it.
Not bad. Who was it said they'd rather be red than dead? Is
I
that
don't
Pearson?
I don't know, but I
Who's
don't
Pearson?
think that's our choice.
No, but I mean, I'm just throwing it in as a nostalgic reminder. But I think it was Pearson who got into dreadful trouble way back in the 60s. By the way, I recognize your voice, caller.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Did you ever come into the money?
Well, it's still all tied up in Spanish court.
Do your best. Bye. Good story behind that call, but I can't tell you. It would embarrass him. Next one. Where am I going? I can't see. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I'd like to ask your guest
A question.
question.
Ask him.
He admits that there's going to be a third world war, correct?
Do you admit there's going to be a third world war?
I think unless there's a worldwide vote to stop it, yeah, I believe there's probably going to be a third world war very soon.
Okay. Here's my question. If he really believes that there's going to be a third world war, does he really think the Russians are going to give up the only weapon they have that can successfully attack the factories that will make all the weapons that the Americans will use in this third world war?
Well, it might not be the Americans who start it.
Okay, well, the Americans, I think, will be involved with it.
Look, there's not going to be any disarmament unless it's mutual, okay? The United States isn't going to take apart a single bullet unless the Russians are willing to take apart a bullet on their part, too. And that goes on up to missiles. So there's not going to be any disarmament unless it's gradual, balanced, and mutual. That's the only way it's ever going to happen at all.
And I don't believe the Russians will allow, I don't think the Russians will get rid of the only weapon that they have to attack the North American continent.
Well, look, there's something that you really ought to face, okay? And don't say I'm a fellow traveler or sympathetic to the Russians, because I'm not. But the Russians have been pushing for world disarmament consistently ever since the Second World War. They're not doing it because they're more moral than us. They're doing it because it's in their national interest to do so.
They want the Americans.
Now, just a minute now. I think what we have to do is call their bluff and
No,
propose
they want
disarmament
to
to
call
them.
our bluff. That's what they want to do. They want to suck us in.
We're not going to disarm unless they're disarming too. End of conversation.
Well, I hope you're right. I really do hope you're right. No, I'm going to take a couple more calls and let Jimmy go. No, just hold your breath. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yeah. That's you.
Wouldn't you say that the Americans have already answered the referendum, or so-called referendum, if
By electing Reagan?
by voting Reagan in?
You know, there was a referendum held on a mutual freeze of nuclear arms between the United States and the Soviet Union in Massachusetts, in 3 senatorial districts during that presidential election, and it passed 60%.
But Massachusetts is a very liberal state.
Yeah, it's only one state, but I agree that the American people are moving to, not only to the right, but they're moving into a very dangerous mood of confrontation with the Soviet Union. And they're not the only ones. The Soviet Union is moving in that direction too. And that's one of the reasons I think we're very likely to have a world war.
Jimmy, tell us where your conference is this weekend.
University of Victoria,
When?
Saturday. Saturday, 9 o'clock
What's
in
the
the morning.
I mean, who can do anything but at least give you moral support, name of goodness?
Well, they can come to the conference and find out some very concrete things they can do. People have power. That's witnessed in Poland, witnessed in Iran. People have power to change things if they really work at it. What we need is a strategy, and with this idea of a world vote, I think we've got one that people should get behind.
Well, I turned down the chance to talk to McGuigan today. I'm kind of sorry now. I'd have liked to have asked him about this.
Yes, I wish you had.
My thanks to James Stark, Executive Director of Operation Dismantle from Ottawa, Canada.
Thank you very much.
Canada. Well,
Thanks, Jack.
best of luck.
Thank you.
Next, Carol Sapin Gold, after the break. Carol Sapin Gold is an American. She's from Los Angeles. She lectures and holds seminars on the secret of success, or success secrets. and tells how 18 everyday women became fortune builders and famous speakers. Now, in this great new revolution that has been in this male-female world, is there any special technique whereby a woman gets the recognition she deserves, and why do you lecture only to women?
Two questions. Number one, product knowledge, and number two, I don't only lecture to women.
What do you tell? Oh, you do. You lecture to women.
I do, but I don't only lecture to women.
Well, now, I'm continually being harassed by people who tell me that I'm a chauvinist in my attitude, and I don't believe that myself. I'm not a chauvinist in my attitude. I think talent is eventually recognized.
I agree.
Are there any major bars to women in American business today?
I think the same bars to American women are held to Canadian women or any other women that are in business.
What are the bars?
The bars are really having the ability and the talent to take authority with responsibility, to have knowledge of craft, to really know what they're talking about, and the ability to be political in an organization in a very positive way, and to build some sense of selling expertise so they can sell their ideas and sell what they have instead of just presenting it. There's a big difference.
Now, you're the president of your own firm in Los Angeles, and before that you were corporate director of personnel training for the Great West Financial Corporation.
Yes.
Did you have to fight and claw your way up?
No.
Or did the fact that you're a woman not give you a little bit of an extra edge on your way up?
No, I would say neither of those, in the sense that I had the privilege of creating a training department in an area that had no training prior to that. So it was very challenging, and I had to prove that I could do it. So in that sense, I was like anyone else starting out. The act of being a woman only covers about the first 5% of a situation, and after that people want to know if you know what you're doing, if you have something to say or you have something to share or give. So I think that's that first blush, if you will, and then after that we move right along.
Is not one of the traditional handicaps of women in corporate structures that they're not capable of the old boy network, to use it in its crudest sense?
Yes.
The drinking after hours.
Yes.
The backstabbing after hours, the wheeling and dealing after hours, and that you women have had to set up a conscious system which you call networking, because otherwise you tend to be loners and go your own, I was going to say catty, go your own ways.
I think you hit it right on the nose. I really do, and I think you're absolutely 100% right. However, there's nothing I don't think that anybody can do about that until an evolutionary period moves on. Women are being given an opportunity to have more physical activities in school, which will show them some team building, and consequently they will eventually have that after-work network. But right now they don't have it.
They're not capable of working in a team.
I'll tell you why. I think.
Tell me why.
All right.
Because
men,
they
let me tell you.
You
all right?
tell me. I better not tell you or I'll be in trouble.
Okay. Men have always worked in a team, but have not necessarily had the need to like each other. But they know that the team has to win. See, that's the difference. Women, on the other hand, have always worked in a way that they should like each other. Then the team wins. And there's a very big difference.
That's what I said, catty. They won't work with women they don't like.
Well, they're learning to. They're learning to be more objective in their observations that that's a necessity of life. They can no longer have that luxury.
Yeah, of course, there are still some areas which are closed to women, other not.
Being in the submarine corps, I think, is one.
Can you think of any others?
No, not obvious.
Well, I don't mind if you want to go out and become a ditch digger at $14 an hour in a union contract. Mind you, I don't think that you will, by genetic standards, be as good a ditch digger, will you?
Well, perhaps I may not have my heart in it right away, but after that I think I will. You have women in the sanitation department. You have all sorts of people doing equal jobs. I think there needs to be more male secretaries. There has to be an equalization of positions.
Why must there be more male secretaries? You want to, I mean, this desexization, this kind of downgrading of the man himself.
Oh, it's a downgrade to be a secretary?
It is for many men, yes.
I hadn't looked at it that way.
You hadn't. I can write shorthand. I can type. I could have been a secretary, but I wouldn't like to be stuck in it.
But you would have been an exciting secretary. It would have been interesting to work with you
I
and
certainly hope I
stimulating.
wouldn't have been subjected to sexual harassment by my boss.
Depends. Depends if you have cute legs. I don't know.
I've got excellent legs. It's my stomach that gives me problems.
You're bad. You're bad.
Tell me, on sexual harassment, Does it really exist in corporate life?
Well,
I mean, forget Mary Cunningham or whatever her name was, the Bendix spring woman. The Bendix woman.
I had an interesting experience yesterday that
Almost.
clarified that. All
Sexual harassment?
Almost. Your political woman, Rosemary Brown, Rosemary Brown?
Right, you're dead on.
All right. Was at a meeting that I had the privilege of hosting yesterday. And the question came up of sexual harassment, and I asked the group of 250 high-powered women how many of them had been involved in anything like that, and only about 7 or 8 women raised their hand. And what happened in the conversation was the fact that Rosemary expounded on the fact that it is really the woman in the lower paying position, perhaps the factory worker per se, that doesn't have the power, doesn't have the finesse, doesn't have the ability to either accept or deny sexual harassment, and that in a sense it is the woman who is subjected to harassment who is on the assembly line more than a woman in a more powerful position today. And I thought that was an interesting exploration of that. I don't spend a lot of time on that because I really move on to let's get on with it. But
Training, of course, is the key to success, isn't it?
in any area.
How about the ability to speak? Is that important?
Projecting oneself, presenting oneself, yes, I do think
There are
it's
so
important.
many women around here who mumble. It's an absolute
Yes.
pleasure to be with someone who can open their lips and say something comprehensible.
I think it's very important. Very
Is that
important.
a chauvinist remark for which I'll get into trouble?
No, that's a people remark, and it bears...
Oh, there are men around here, too, who mumble. In
Yes.
fact, I'm the only person in the whole place that doesn't mumble. What do you...
1 minute.
I'll tell you when we'll take the break.
No.
I want to take calls for you from businesswomen or whatever.
Good.
On success secrets from Carol Sapin Gold.
Oh, you're bad.
Who's up here for the sales and marketing organization.
Yes,
Aren't
sales
you?
and marketing executives.
You're
I'm
quite
going-
right for an American, apart
Thank
from being
you.
a woman.
I appreciate
After
that.
the break. Carol Sapin Gold and I have just agreed that I'm what could be best called a closet feminist. I'm not going to come out of the closet either, I'll tell you. But I do appreciate the struggles and whatnot and whatnot. I just hope you don't overdo it, that's all. And I hate to see this desexing of downgrading of men, which is done by so
Well,
many
it's
of
never
you
done
people
by me.
in
Never.
the feminist movement.
My feeling-
Customer relations.
Yes. That's my long suit.
Okay, customer relate me.
Well, today you have a very, very frustrated patron out there, a person who would just settle to be treated well. They don't want it good. They just want to be treated nicely. They just want to feel important, and that's what I do. I share that information, how to do it.
How to do it? All you have to do is be nice.
It's not that simple. See, courtesy is rote. Courtesy is robot.
Oh, have a good day is disgusting.
Yeah.
I hate people who say to me, have a good day.
Yes.
I mean, you may just have broken your leg,
Yes.
lost $1 million, cut your throat by accident, and somebody says to you, have a good day.
Right, right.
Makes you sick, doesn't
That's
it?
right. Because they don't hear what you're saying.
No, that's right. Any calls from Oliver, BC? Go ahead to Carol Sapin Gold. Where are you?
I'm here.
Well, speak up then.
Well, I'm actually from Vassal Lake, and I want to speak to the lady about where I can purchase her book. I was just elected alderman in the village of Oliver.
Oh, good for you. Is your book published in Canada?
No, but it's located in Los Angeles, and if she will leave her name and phone number, I'll be happy to write to her and send her a brochure about the book.
Okay, dokie. Will you take that, please, Gladys?
And thank you.
Will you hold on 5525? Will you hold on?
I'm holding.
Okay, Gladys will take your number.
Congratulations.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to relate a story about the job that I'm in, that I've been in for the last 10 years, regarding working and, making my way ahead as a woman. I worked for a company for the last 10 years and have moved up successfully. And it sort of happened about 7 years ago where my boss was murdered, and I sort of was just thrown into a position, sort of myself being in shock over what had happened, and sort of having to make my way up into this position. And I just wanted to mention that over the last 7 years that I've been in the supervisory position, the respect that I've had to work for from the other male counterparts in this company. And exactly what your speaker has been talking about is exactly what you have to do.
You mean that you have to be twice as good as a man in a comparable job to gain the same respect?
No, excuse me, I wouldn't say twice as good. You just have to show that you are capable.
Where have you moved in your position since you took over? Are you still in the same position you were when he died?
Pardon me?
Have you moved in your position since he passed away? Have you moved up into any other area?
Well, I moved into his position from being just a worker underneath him right into a supervisory position, only because there was nobody else that was capable, and I wasn't really even capable at the time, but they just felt that I was the best bet, sort of thing.
Okay, my dear, thanks for your call. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Carol?
Yes?
I got one good question for you. How come that a lot of people and a lot of women complain about housework and stuff? My wife has been working for the past 3 years, and I've got a little boy to look after. I do all the grocery shopping, all the washing, all the ironing. I've taken over her job.
Uh-huh. How do you like it?
And how come a lot of women complain about not being able to do housework, laundry, and do the shopping?
How do you like it, Carol asked you?
Well, I've been forced in this position. She's got the job now, and this is where I think 90% of the country's going. The women are getting jobs over men.
Are you out of work?
Yes, I am.
But you say forced? You're forced into it? If you had your choice, what would you prefer to do?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'd rather do the housework because it's so more relaxing, so much more enjoyable.
I see.
Good luck. You can find a better butcher, a better grocery shopper, and everything else.
Well, you're probably a little smarter than your wife.
Well, not necessarily, Jack. It's enjoyable. I bet you if you found a lot of men feel the same way as I do.
Oh, I think there are, and I think you see a changing world now, and it's very exciting. And you're talking about fairness and sharing, and I congratulate you on your good insight into the situation.
Oh.
The thing is, I can't see how some housewives just utterly complain about I got to do this today, and I got to do that today, and I got to do this today.
They don't have it organized like you do.
Yeah, I know, and then they say, well, I haven't got enough hours in the day to do this or enough hours to do that. You know, a man can sit down and...
Do you have the other women in for coffee parties in the afternoon?
That's right, there isn't that kind of stuff. Maybe just card games and a few beers, that's about it for the men in housekeeping.
Where are you speaking from? Kamloops?
No, Coquitlam.
I knew it was in Surrey. Thanks very much. Where am I going, Gladys? Nobody there. Go ahead, please. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Webster?
Yes, sir. Are you on the topic?
Just a second. I'm not on the topic.
Well, in that case, hold on the line. Carol, that was good fun, and I'm going to let you go. When's your next lecture?
This evening, I'm going to be working with sales and marketing executives.
In Vancouver.
Yes. My title, by the way, is Why Are You Still Speaking? Your listener left 4 minutes ago.
That's not bad, is it?
Thank you.
I sometimes have that feeling myself.
I've really enjoyed this today.
Me
thank
too.
You.
Carol Sapin Gold, thank you very much. Next, a broadcaster's broadcaster, after the break. Peggy Holmes is a broadcaster, still broadcasting in Edmonton. Peggy, nosy old Webster, how old are you?
83.
When did you don't look at
I was 83 last Armistice Day.
November the 11th?
Yes, they signed the armistice for me.
Where are you from in England originally?
Hull.
Hull.
Yorkshire.
Do you ever remember a street called the Land of Green Ginger?
Oh, sure.
I remember going to
Land of Green Ginger, yes, isn't that and Poston Gate. They had gates and things in those days. They closed
In
them.
Hull.
In Hull?
Hull, you say?
Hull.
Hull, Yorkshire. Peggy, when did you start broadcasting?
When I was 77.
Tell me about it.
Well,
that's the way I feel most mornings.
Well, you're not but a kid.
None but a kid?
You're not but a kid.
No but a kid. Okay, I'm no but a kid. Tell me how you came to start broadcasting at 77 when this is a fairly high-pressure game.
Oh, I don't find it high-pressured at all.
Oh.
I refuse to be stressed.
Oh.
Yes, well, you asked the question. Well, I started by writing a few stories. I went to a creative writing course given by a lady. This was an educationalist and a very good teacher, Elsie Park Garner. Her name is known very well, I think, in Canada. And she taught me the tricks. And
what kind of broadcasting did you do, or do you still do in Edmonton?
Oh, yes. Well, I did on the morning show 5 days a week.
CBC?
CBC. Yeah.
We're allowed to mention it
Oh,
here.
you are?
I used to broadcast on the CBC.
Oh,
too
good
at
for you.
one
Yes,
time.
I know you did. I've listened to you.
I was your roving reporter
Yeah.
for today from Vancouver.
I know. I used to listen to you.
Many, many years
Yeah.
ago.
Mhm.
What kind of broadcasts?
Well, in the first part, when I started, I did pioneer stories. My own, but I soon milked that cow dry, so I started on other people, you see. And I have a good history. I've done 800 scripts, and I've got the history of a lot of people.
And you got an award from the City of Edmonton for outstanding services in preserving Edmonton's heritage.
Yeah, and the province. I got a provincial, and the Hudson's Bay Beaver Award. So I've really been very well received.
And you actually started broadcasting in '77.
I've never done it before, Jack.
And you were living in a senior citizens residence at the time.
Yes.
So that was a new career at '77.
Yes.
Had you written before then?
Letters.
Just
Lots
letters.
of letters. And I tell the young people today, you see, we had to write. We'd no long distance, we'd no telephone. And we just had to write, and it was about a month. Of course, it's not much better now with the post, but...
In 1919, you appeared in Canada. Peggy Holmes, This Is Your Life, with one of the first contingents of World War I brides.
That's right.
Tell me about it. Tell me about your pioneer life.
Well,
Because I never had one. I was just born in a city.
Were you? Well, I was born in a city.
But you had a pioneer life in Canada.
Oh, yes, in Canada. I came out, first of all, to a ranch near Calgary, and there I learnt to ride and milk a cow, which I couldn't do before.
You never, well, you'd seen one before.
Well, I used to push the milk up instead of bringing it down, and the cow used to get so cross. But I did learn to milk. I sort of served an apprenticeship with my husband on the ranch, and then we went to his homestead, which was north of St. Paul, on the old bull trail between Winnipeg and Lac La Biche.
How did you find it coming out from
Well,
Hull to that kind of
Very
winter?
terrible, very terrible.
Living conditions?
There weren't any. I mean, it was survival.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, there was nothing when we got there. We had to live in a bachelor's shack because our place had been burnt down while he was at war. And we got the logs out of the bush and built a home, which is the picture on the back of the book.
Yeah,
And
sure
we
that.
did it together with an old team called Skin and Grief. They were just, they could just pull the logs. you
These
know.
were your two old nags.
Yes.
Skin and Grief.
And you see, with nothing really to keep them on the homestead, horses always go back to where they came from. And ours came from Montana or somewhere because they headed south every day. We couldn't keep the things. We had to go and catch them before we could do anything with them.
You and Harry was experienced in the outdoors, was he, your husband?
Not particularly, I don't think.
You cut the trees, notched the logs, dirt floor?
Oh, yes, yes.
What kind of roof?
Well, he insisted on a good roof. So we had to go 30 miles in a wagon to get shingles. And if you notice on the picture, it was quite a high house because I didn't want to live in just a little bit of a sod shack. So we made a great mistake. We could never keep it warm. We froze to death all the time.
A sod shack would have been warmer.
Very much better.
For that first winter?
Certainly.
How long was it before the house was livable?
Well, it never was.
How long did you stay there?
Well, we stayed until we proved up. And I used to have to chink the logs, you see. The wind used to come through. And it was really... We had a tent in the living room to begin with and a flat roof. And in England, they wanted to know what it was like. So I said, well, it's like Selfridge's roof garden and the Hull Pier.
What you did was you built a wooden frame with a shingle roof.
Yeah.
And then for additional...
But we didn't have the roof on then. We just had the floor.
Just the floor.
And then we lived in a tent, yes.
In the winter time?
Well, sure, it was winter.
What was the weather like?
Terrible. It went down to the lowest, and we never knew after that. And of course, we never got weather reports. We didn't know what wind chill was or anything like that. We just used to know our bones.
Weren't you tempted to call it a day and go back to Hull,
yes.
England?
Oh, yes. I told my husband, I said, I'm leaving. I'm going. How much money have you got? He said, $7. Well, if he'd had 10, I should have gone.
How far away out of what was your nearest city?
Oh, well, the city would be Edmonton, you see. That would be 140 miles or so away. But the town would be Lac La Biche, was St. Paul, which was a small town.
Mm-hmm. Were they good times?
Well, we were happy. I think we realized this, Jack. They were talking about war. You see, people said you left merry old England to come out there. I did not. I left war-torn England to come out, which is quite different.
Yeah,
if you've survived the war, you think nothing's going to bother you again. It does, you know.
know it does.
Yeah, but he's perfectly right, the fellow that was on before about war. But when we come out from a war, so we thought, my husband had been in the Canadian Army and survived, and I thought, well, if we can do that, we can do anything.
Okay, stay a couple of minutes more and tell me some more of your farming experiences. Farming? You were farming?
Well, I wouldn't call it farming. You see, everybody that got fed up left us a cow. We used to give them something to go out with, like possibly a coat or something from the city, so they could go out, and they'd leave us something they couldn't feed. So we got a...
You mean these are people who were giving up the farming?
Oh, yes. Most of
Tell me about
homesteading,
that. Tell me
not
about
farming.
homesteading after the break. This is the back of Peggy Holmes's book, and you painted that picture.
Yes, I was an artist before I was a writer.
And there is the house itself, the rather tall house which you misguidedly attempted to build
Yeah.
off day one. Tell me about homesteading in those days. What did that mean? Because lots of people listening now, they know a phrase, but they don't know what homesteading
Well,
was.
it meant that the government, if you paid $10, you could get 160 acres, and you had to comply with a lot of regulations. You had to build a house, fence the place, plough the land, live on it for so long. And then, after the war, that was 160 acres. After the war, the government gave the returned soldiers another 160 acres. Well, ours happened to be 3 miles away, and it was a hay quarter. Well, then, when we began to collect these scrub stock, because that's all it wasn't farming, Jack. And people, like bachelors, may have had a cow and a horse, and then they used to give up the unequal struggle, and they let the thing go. They lost the $10, and they went out. Well, then perhaps we'd let them have something that we had from the city to get out, or perhaps a
coat?
A coat, or something of Harry's. They went out dressed in Harry's clothes and my clothes.
And you got the old cow?
We got the old cow to feed, and by the time they'd all gone out, we'd about 20 head of stock to feed. And we used to have the hay from the hay quarter, which we put up. And I used to have a hay rack, and my husband had a hay rack, and I used to come by with my little rack. And every time we hit a tree, he had to get out and put it, fell it, because to make the road. There was no road in.
So your hay quarter was your 160 acres of hay was well away from your 160 acres
3 miles, so we'd 6 miles to go to get the feed for this howling mob. And they'd gobble it up so fast, we were frozen. And I used to watch his hay rack going up and down and hitting the bumps. I used to close my eyes and pray to God I'd get there, I mean, it was
I
really...
just want to get the picture. You and a number of others were homesteading north of Edmonton, right? You and Harry stuck it out.
Yes.
All those people who gave up, you'd give them something to get to town with, perhaps,
Yeah.
and they'd give you their sick old animal.
Oh, yes. I got a saddle horse and a lot of old cows,
What happened to them? Did
when we had to leave...
well, you had to leave,
we
too.
had to
You
leave.
had to give up the unequal struggle.
Oh, sure, yes. But we got our patent, but it didn't help. We got 320 acres of land, and it was not worth anything but rabbits. It was full of rabbits. Well, we lived on rabbits, by the way. And then when we paid taxes on that, and when we sold them, we sold 1 quarter for $700, and the real estate man took his fee, and then we sold the other for $500, the hay quarter, and he took his fee. So that's all, and we'd paid taxes.
What year did you sell them? You got them in 1919
Well,
or
during the
thereabouts.
war in 1940-odd, when we came to Vancouver.
What would they be worth now?
Oh,
Eh?
I don't know.
Untold
But
thousands.
no. That land there would be worth quite a lot, but not as much as some.
Now, food. You lived on milk from the cows.
Oh, yes, with milk and
rabbits
cream
from the fields.
and rabbits and partridge. And we only used the breast of partridge. We were very selective.
But there were lots of them to shoot.
Yes, and one day I was going to leave. I got to the screaming point. I used to scream quite a lot. And the horses ran away. This awful team ran away.
Back to Montana.
Yeah, and so Harry said, "What on earth's the matter?" I said, "Nothing, I just felt like it." Well, he said, "The next time," he's a very quiet, dignified man. He said, "Well, the next time, let me know when you're going to scream and go behind the barn." So I did. It was good therapy.
So when you got really at the end of your tether, you'd toddle out to behind the barn and stand
I said, well,
there
I'm going to scream.
and scream and rant and rave.
Oh, sure. But it relieved me.
Don't you feel that the youngsters today don't know what survival is?
I
mean, including youngsters like myself.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them because they may have to face it. But I think they will. I think we've always measured up. Look at Britain with their back to the wall. We measured up.
I suppose they did. Well, you know, it's just been...
And I think they will again.
Yeah. So after
let
that...
me mention my collaborator.
Yes, please.
For the book, I had a collaborator, and she was very good. And I also work for the Edmonton Public School Board. They're updating the curriculum on the history, because I've got so much history, you see, now.
And who is your collaborator?
Joy Roberts.
Where's she from?
She originally England, but she's been in Canada a long time. She's been a professional. And
well, Peggy, I hope you sell 1 million copies. It could have been worse, but not much.
Well, that was Harry's saying. Everything. It could have been worse. I could have killed him at times, you know, because I couldn't see how it could be worse.
I know, I can believe you. Did you ever go back to England
in
those years?
No, no, we never had the money. No, he became the official, he was the Dean of Court Reporters for 45 years in the Edmonton courts.
Oh, he was?
Yes.
An old shorthand man?
Yeah.
Was he a shorthand writer?
Pitman's.
Pitman's.
But nothing else.
Now
nothing
is
else
the
but
time for all good men to come
go to the aid of their
party.
country. Oh, the party. I thought it was the country.
Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party.
Party?
Party or country? Party.
Well, we need the party.
Don't mention parties this morning.
Oh,
The
let's
very
have
best of luck to you,
Let's
Peggy.
have a party.
No, it's too early in the day, and thanks very much for coming.
Okay, it's been fun.
I'll be back with a free-for-all after the break. Hold on, don't go away. I'll use you as the second call. What do you want to talk about? Oh, any bookstore. Peggy, it could have been worse. Yes, I know I'm on camera. Hold on, please. Yeah, what do you want to talk about? Hold on, I'll use you in a little while. I said my piece this morning about ICBC. I think it's a political boo-boo of the worst and most insensitive order to deny old age pensioners unlimited incomes, a 25% discount on their insurance, and I think it could easily be done by a simple declaration when you apply for your policy that your income does not exceed a certain level. I was going to say something about the Senator Hotel down on Granville Street, which I think is a crazy project. You been in Granville Street lately? It's appalling. Granville Street, Vancouver, that is. I was going to talk a little bit about the Ku Klux Klan, a very little bit. Far too much attention given to these people and far too much panic made by people who often don't know what they're talking about. Although I despise the KKK, as you may well remember, if you remember me interviewing their so-called leader last year in a very bad-tempered little incident we had together. And I'm going to start with this call on a free-for-all. I like to have free-for-alls. I don't have enough of them.
Mr. Webster.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you and Nicole Parton for a very big laugh. She was talking about the Corningware coffee pots.
Uh-huh.
It was followed very shortly by a break and then a commercial by Corningware. And I thought that was very humorous.
I didn't know that.
And I thought it was tremendously humorous.
It was like the morning we had the mayoralty campaigns on and we were followed by a commercial for Harcourt. We never thinking of checking the commercial log, and it wouldn't make any difference anyway, would it?
No, but I thought that was rather humorous.
Did you quite like the Nicole Parton bit?
Yes, I did.
Funny, I thought it was all right, but a lot of people liked it.
Oh, I like her. I like her a lot. Thank you very much.
Oh, I like it too.
All right. Goodbye
Thank you
now.
very much indeed. Did I say so? Go ahead, please. Can't hear you.
Hello.
That's you, ma'am.
Okay.
Speak up.
Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to speak to you about your respect for women. You spoke about women who are timid and quiet and mumble. Well, I think you haven't met the critical care nurses in Vancouver, because these are a bunch of women who have worked hard to get where they are. They've studied hard. They care a lot about people. They're kind. And I think if you met these people, you'd meet some very intelligent, dynamic, aggressive women who don't put people down but respect them and enjoy people in general. And I think if you could meet these ladies, you'd have a little different outlook.
Well, no, my outlook, it's not a question of competence or aggressiveness. God knows we've enough competent or aggressive women around here.
Not aggressive.
It's just the mumbling that drives me around the bend, because I'm getting old and a little corned beef.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last comment. Old and...
Corned beef.
Oh.
That means
well,
beef.
There are a lot of women out there who don't mumble, and I think they respect men for what they are. And we have men in our profession, and...
What do you mean critical?
Maybe it's just a profession. They don't mumble either.
Do you mean intensive care nurses?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye.
Obviously, they must be competent people who shouldn't mumble. Osayus.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Yes, I'm a member of the hearing aid dealers of the province of...
Oh, I'm very... Hey, what did you say?
Yeah, we can get you one too, Jack. We've had our business wiped out across the country. Myself, personally, I have a medical handicap. I've been wiped out, no income, been refused welfare in the whole business, and no support. Nothing we write to the government does a thing. What can we do with that bunch of people we've got in Victoria right now?
What do you mean you had your... I see hearing aid stores all over the place.
Yeah, you check into it. A lot of them have been wiped out.
How have they been wiped out?
Because the government clinics sell everything at half price. You take here in the Okanagan Valley, their business has been wiped out. There's only one or two dealers that are running on a part-time basis, and they're having to support themselves through other means.
Look, I remember well, a number of years ago, many complaints about the exorbitant prices for not very good hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember an early social credit government prior to the NDP was forced to bring in a system of subsidized hearing aids to stop some old people from being ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that too, don't you?
There's a certain amount of that, sure.
Now, what you're saying is that you're mad because the government in Victoria is subsidizing hearing aids and selling them directly through human resources?
Well, we're not really mad that they're doing that. We're mad also because they didn't include us in working in the clinics. They brought in from the United States and other countries, the workers.
Oh, I remember
in 78, all the workers that they had in those clinics, the major workers were out of Canada.
I remember they brought in some American to head up a clinic.
Right.
With different...
And here the thing is, Jack, okay, there may have been some discrepancies in some of the businesses. There isn't anything. If you want to investigate garages or any other business, you find a certain amount of dishonesty. But that's no reason for a government to wipe out an entire industry. Why didn't they help to clean up a few of the bad actors that might have existed somewhere? Because you have that in every industry. But instead, we've all been forced out of work. There's only a few private dealers that are still going.
All I can do for you...
Ticton is having to support his work by teaching drivers how to drive on the side.
Well, thanks for your information. Perhaps you give me a little letter on it. I might have something to work on. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack.
Yes.
What I can't understand, yesterday with this ICBC deal you had on, the government was right in there telling the corporation what to do. Yet with the break, when they took over Kaiser, the government wouldn't have a thing to do with it. They said it was a corporation. It had nothing to do with the government.
Now, let's be quite clinically fair. ICBC runs under a set of rules laid down by the government, which divested itself, it said, of any direct operation of this Crown Corporation. They said the same thing about BRIC. In neither of these situations do I accept their interpretation. There was a political decision to go to fair. It was a political decision to wipe out age-sex marital discrimination and to wipe out age discrimination. And I think in the case of age discrimination, it was a bad decision.
Well,
as far as BRIC was concerned, Bennett cannot escape from the fact that it is a corporation which in the eyes of the public was started and financed with public money, and there are still many government shares in it. The situations are actually quite parallel.
Do you not think, Jack, that there is going to be an election around the early spring?
No.
Huh?
No.
I think that's why he's calling this first session of
If
Parliament.
he called an election now, he'd be dumped.
Well, he knows that, but...
Okay, maybe he wants to.
You watch.
No, I don't think so. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, just talk about anything you want, eh?
Yeah.
How about UFOs?
Sure. Seen
okay.
one?
I'm president of a UFO club, UFO Universal Club. I phoned a couple of weeks ago when you had Dr. Friedman on. And, but I believe that I could be a contactee, you know, and I know darn well that there's maybe not a vigilante, but a quiet onlooking of concern by alien beings.
What have you had lately?
For a fact, because of my eyewitness of a UFO.
Well, what do you mean a contactee?
Well, somehow you're in contact with some sort of a spirit of them, you know, like...
It could be a delusion.
Pardon me?
It could be a straight paranoid delusion.
Well, no, it's astral traveling. You ever heard of that? There's books about that down at Banyan Books downtown.
Yep. You can leave your body and go where you want.
I do that, and that really scares the heck out of me. I often wonder what that's
Oh,
all
no,
about, you know?
that is a legitimate experience which some people think they've had. Whether or not they actually do it, God alone knows. I don't.
I do it, and what do you think it is, you know?
It may just be an hallucination.
Oh, jeez.
Where are you from?
Pardon me?
I mean, where have you been going lately?
Well, one time I almost thought I landed on some sort of a foreign planet, you know, or a star way up in space, you know. It was really strange. And seeing these spirits, you know, like people from way back, and they had these funny-looking hats. They looked like a captain of an old galleon way back in the 1600s, you know.
You sure you wasn't watching Star Trek?
No, I don't watch that. But that show that's on now, Hangar 18 is a really good show. Have you seen it?
No.
It's a good show. It's about UFOs.
Okay, much obliged. If you travel anywhere exciting, let me know. Go ahead, please.
Okay, Jack, how are you this morning?
Not bad.
Good. I'd like to talk to you about domestic cars, and I think this is sort of a relevant point because cars are second largest expenditure that most of us make. And I'd sort of like to make a plea to people who are considering buying a car now to consider buying a domestic car. Now, Nicole Parton was on last week, and she had an excellent little article in The Sun about the cost of domestic cars versus import cars, and the point she made was that although import cars do get better gas mileage, you lose out in the long run because of depreciation and maintenance.
And repairs.
Go ahead.
No, I've got a friend who's got a very expensive, fancy European car. And he had a strange experience. I won't identify the car just because I'm not quite sure. But something went wrong with his car, right? It was this very small part in some part of the engine.
Yeah.
So they tried to order the spare. And the computer clattered back that there were no spares because the computer said that part of the car would never go wrong.
Yeah.
And therefore he had to wait 2 months for the spare from Europe. How does that grab you? Eh? Isn't that incredible? You make a good point, and thank you, and I'll take a break and come back with more Free for All after the break. Go ahead, please.
Jack,
Yeah.
can you do anything to help traffic on the Patua Bridge, like 3 lanes north in the morning and 3 lanes south in the evening, like do a Lions Gate on the Patua Bridge?
Don't they do that now?
No, they don't.
Wonder why not.
The congestion is just terrible. It takes you to about an hour and a half to clear that bridge in the morning, about the same in the afternoon.
Wonder why they don't do it. Is it? It's a very tight 3-lane bridge, as I recall.
Yes, it is, but it's wide enough to get trucks and buses in all 3 lanes. Well, actually, there's 4 lanes on it.
Who's responsible for that? Muni Evers or the Highways Department?
I think it's Highways Department and GVRD.
You wonder why they wouldn't do that.
Well, I don't know. I wrote letters to Alec Fraser, and he referred it to a committee or something else months ago. Nothing's happened.
Look, we were going to have Alec Fraser on the air.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah, I'll do it when I get Alec on the air. I'll get him on the air one of these days.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
For a social credit cabinet minister, he's a very nice guy.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Next. Trail BC, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Is that Webster?
Uh-huh.
Hey?
Yes.
Who's speaking?
Webster.
Webster?
Yes.
Well, I would like to know what a fellow can do after he's been hit by cars and smashed his car up and windshield's getting busted, and you go to the ICBC about it, and they just laugh at you.
Well, they don't laugh at you if you've got the coverage. Did you have comprehensive on your windshield?
I've got it all.
Hold on, please. Give him Bev Penhall's number and tell him to call, please. Long distance too. Pardon? Give him Bev Penhall's number and tell him to call. I can't handle every ICBC complaint that comes away. Much as I would like to, dear callers. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
I'd like to talk to you a bit about the welfare system in BC.
Yes, please.
First off, it's about a letter that I sent to Grace McCarthy that you might like to hear about. I made a suggestion to her that her and some of the other ministers try living on what people get on welfare. I'm not...
That's been done many a times, and some reporters have gone down to Skid Row and tried to live on welfare, and they've written harrowing stories about it. And I don't think you can honestly expect that the Minister of Human Resources is going to go on welfare unless it's to her political advantage for a short period. Now, how old are you?
I believe that. It was just a...
How old are you?
I'm 24.
Are you on welfare?
Yes, I am.
How much do you get?
$4.73 a month.
Why are you on welfare?
Because of a disease I've had for the last 2 years.
A bad one?
It's fairly bad. It makes it so that I can't stand up for any length of time.
Married?
Yeah, I am.
Children?
No, I haven't got any.
Rental assistance?
Rental assistance. It pays for part of my rent, or it pays my rent.
What's the total amount you get each month?
That's $4.73.
That includes your rental assistance?
That includes everything.
That's for you and your wife?
That's right.
Is she working?
No, she's not.
She's not working. How much rent do you pay?
$2.20.
Does she look after you?
She does most of the time.
$2.20 a month for rent. One bedroom suite?
That's right.
$473.
That's right.
What's the condition you have?
Beg pardon?
What is the condition you have?
I have a condition called fibrositis. It's a disease that affects the tendons and the fibers in your whole body. It weakens all the muscles and things like that.
How long have you had it?
2.5 years.
When was the last time you were able to work?
Pretty close to 3 years ago now.
Are you in welfare or a handicap pension?
They won't allow me handicap pension.
Because you're not bad enough.
No, it's because, as the handicap board said, it's because I'm being treated. And they can't give a person a handicap pension if they're being treated for a disease that's possibly curable. And the doctors have no cure for it.
Well, all I can do is give you sympathy. Hold on. No, nothing I can do. You've made your protest, and thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I noticed that the federal ministers are out.
You are a perpetual, permanent, open line caller. Every time I get in the car, I hear you, sir. Give somebody else a chance, please. Fair enough. And I think it's justifiable. The object of the exercise is to get different calls from different people. And I know a fair number of voices in this town. God knows I've taken enough phone calls in my day. Goodness knows, I mean. Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Jack, prior to your holidays, you had your camera crew and yourself, you toured a dairy barn of 41 jerseys where the report came over that the milk was not being sold anywhere. It was being dumped down the drain.
Brian Coxford did the story, and they were pouring the milk down the drain, yes.
And has anything
That was
been done
because,
about this?
no, that was because they couldn't get a quota for fresh milk, and they couldn't get the appropriate quota for some other reduction of the milk into other foodstuffs. I don't know what happened.
You have never had no follow-up on that.
I've never had no follow-up on it.
One term that was used there, which I took great exception to, being an ex-dairyman and a member of the Natural Milk Producers Association.
And what was the term to which you took great objection?
Pardon?
What was the term to which you took great objection?
Yes, to the raw milk term, which was a term used while I was in the association to
Now, just a minute.
natural milk producers, and
Oh,
raw
you want-
milk is the wrong word. It's natural milk. It should be called
Thank
natural
you, sir.
milk. There's no such thing as raw milk.
I accept the remonstrance. Where am I going? Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
Being a first-time caller, I'm a little nervous, but there's a small group of us out here in Surrey that have got together to read this ICBC increase. And we're formulating a plan, whereby we're going to, I don't know what you would think of it. We were thinking of withholding part of the provincial part of our income tax next year, pay the income tax that's called for, called due, or whatever you want to call it, then add to that a reasonable increase, such as, say, 10%, that we feel would be a just increase in ICBC rates, withholding the rest on the grounds that it was an unjust and
Well, unless you got 20,000 people, that would be pointless. I don't particularly like that kind of tactic. I still think the best tactic in dealing with mind-changing politicians is with direct mail and phone calls. Phone your MLA, NDPR social credit, right to the Premier, right to Holmes, right to Jim Hewitt. By direct pressure is by far the best way to do it, because you start a little campaign like yours and you maybe get 110 people and then 50 chicken out and you're left with 60 people, and you will go down on the computer as an unpaid premium, and you can bet your boots that yours would be the first license or license plates that would be lifted, and you'd be left holding the bag by yourself. Direct approach, direct protest is the best. And I think that this government will change its mind if it's belted hard enough on the topic. Because one of the great things about ICBC, the auto plan originally, and I think NDP went crazy on it, you know, and social credit went similarly reverse crazy. But it was supposed to make things a little more just for people who were being nicked. Now, when I had Tommy Holmes on yesterday, I said to Tommy Holmes, how do your rates compare with the rest of the country? I don't know. Now, that I find very hard to accept, because one of the great selling points of Autoplan all the way through has been it's cheaper here, it's easier to get here, it's simpler here, settlements are quicker. And for Tommy Holmes to tell me he doesn't know what the comparable rates are in the rest of the industry in the country is, with due respect, hogwash. If he doesn't know, somebody should have told him.
Assistance, dial your up.
Who did that? Who did that? How could that happen? That was the voice of that guy on QM. Bill Phillips. Is that his name? No, go ahead, please. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, Jack, yeah, that young old lady that was on from Hull.
Hull.
You remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I heard you mention, well, I'm also from Hull, and I heard you mention about the land of green ginger, and she mentioned Mitengate. I wondered if since you've been there, whether you'd been into the ye old White Hart with it watching his beer.
No, I was too young. For a shameful episode of my life as a youngster, I actually went to school in a part of England.
Oh, I see.
We tried to keep it a secret. I'm a racist about the English on occasions. You see, you can joke about the English.
Yeah.
Most of them, except for Freddie here.
Yeah, okay, Jack.
But I was too young to go to pubs, but I remember the land of green ginger and Hull. Much obliged. After the break. Sorry I couldn't get to you. 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 Call again. Call again. Call again. Not bad. I like
better than I do it.
Yeah, I'm quicker, of course. I'm younger. Tomorrow. Whoa. Tomorrow.
Big surprise.
Tomorrow we have an extravaganza, which is the fulfillment of a promise made by an incredible fellow called John Murchie. I'm not going to give you a full clue unless you saw the original program, but John said that I said that if John Murchie made something, McGeer bought the prototype, that I would eat it. I may be forced into that situation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. precisely. Thank you, and a jolly good morning, and have a good day.